Hi, everybody. Whew. I'm very calm, but I'm very anxious to talk about this. So, bear with me. The last week of my life has ripped open a lot of things that my family went through 16 years ago. And the 16 years that followed, my dad has been pastoring a second church. And as a kid, I didn't know who knew the truth, who didn't. As I got older, I learned who knew the truth and who didn't. And the reality is, the majority of the grown-ups have no clue what happened. Now or then. And I'm not 16 anymore. I'm not 14 anymore. And when this all started, I was 14. So, I have done so many deep breaths this week and so many grounding exercises for myself. My body is not in a great space, but my brain is. My brain is very, very clear. And my body will get there. But God has given me the opportunity to not only reclaim my voice, but rewrite this story in active time because of the choices of the person that I have called father my entire life. So I am going to, in short, try to be tactful and not give all the gory details here. But there's a lot of mental health and a lot of issues that my dad has. I struggle with a lot of them too. Genetics. But I am going to express the truth of what happened 16 years ago at my father's first church. And then I'm going to bring us to what has happened right now in the last week of my life. I'm really, really trying to protect the privacy of people. I also understand that there are people that will be watching this. You may have already jumped on. That you have either sat in the second church congregation with me or you were a part of the first congregation. This is what I'm about to express to you is why I left the church. This is why I never became an atheist and my faith stayed strong. But this is why in 2020 I went so far the other way. You guys are about to find out the truth of why. And I never lost my faith. It's changed a lot, and I have found a better faith, in my relationship with Jesus and God both. But I have realized as a grown-up now at 30 years old, I have a heart for ministry. I want to help other people. But I couldn't figure out why this one particular situation I have not been ever able to heal from. And now going through it a second time, I'm realizing it's because I've been silenced for the last 16 years while everybody was still watching. 2 years after this happened, my dad took his second church. I was back on church platforms. I became the church pianist. And you guys all know that part of my story. Everybody, you watched it, right? This is how I've become the music mom now all these years later. But you guys are about to find out what was going on behind the scenes. You guys are about to find out why I am still actively struggling. Thank you, Amanda. It's nice to see your name pop up. Hi, Tyler. Oh, if you know me, these are old names. If you know me from way back then, thank you for sticking around. And hold on to your seats. All right, so comedic relief is like where this is at for me, and this is processing for me, okay? I have been thinking all week about how I wanted to address this, or if I was ever going to be ready to. And because of the events that have happened this week, I'm in a space where this is healing for me to speak about. I am not speaking about this to do anything but bring the truth to light and hold people accountable for their actions before anyone else is hurt any further. This also, what I'm about to share, may bring a lot of closure for other people that may have heard rumors over time and never knew anything because nothing was ever addressed by anyone. I in no way hold ill will toward anyone that I'm about to speak on, including my father. But I do not, if you have contact with him, I do not any longer. I will not have any contact with my father probably ever again moving forward, and I will forgive him for this. I will. I've already done it once. But this just cost the relationship that with my dad that I had been rebuilding for the last 3 years. This situation over the week has made me realize that the 25 years my father has been a pastor, I'm not speaking for my siblings, and I need to say this clearly. All 4 of us have very, very different journeys in the story I'm about to give. But in my personal journey, I have never had a father. I have had a pastor. He didn't change my diapers. He didn't come to my volleyball games. He didn't answer my phone calls when I needed help. Everybody else did. This is why, if you're seeing this, this is why you're seeing this. Because you guys aren't the ones who hurt me. My father is, and he's hurt a lot of other people in turn. And so, for the sake of myself and the hundreds and hundreds of people that I personally have ministered to over my 25 years that he has been named pastor, and what I want to be, who I am as a grown-up, as a 30-year-old, and who I want to be for my children, and what I want to grow into, for those reasons, this is why I am sharing this information. I have not up to this point because I have been terrified. I have desperately tried to manage a relationship with my parents, my father especially, because I love them desperately, and I had really tried to move on. But this is where we are now. So without further ado, if you've known me from before and you've heard this story, I want us to just go to Romeo and Juliet for a minute. You guys know the cartoon. And the beginning of the movie, the little gnome thing waddles out and he says, "The story you're about to hear, you have heard before, but you're about to hear it again, but different." This is where we are, guys. And the but different is the grown-up version. So, if you've heard this story before, I'm going to give a very short recap of what happened 16 years ago when my father left his first church, Highland Baptist Church in Indiana. My dad was at that church for 9 years. He took it when I was 5 years old. My brother was born later that year, my baby brother. We were all raised in the spotlight. The people that knew my father in that pastorate and called my dad pastor for those first 9 years know a completely different pastor than the second church did. Very similar, but also very, very different. By the time my dad got to by the time I was 16 and he was in his second church, I think it was with a good heart, but my dad is really, really, really sick. Very, very sick in the head. And I'm not just saying that. He's getting help for it. Hopefully he will actually take it this time. So 16 years ago, I didn't know the specifics of what went down. Muffin, get down. But there was a church split. I remember sitting in the business meeting and hearing the church rip my father apart. I was 14, and that is the only reason I was in the meeting. I was old enough to be there. My siblings weren't in that meeting. And now as a grown-up, I recognize, and I've heard from enough other adults in my life that, yes, Jen, I am doing it. It's time. This is healing. Hi, cuz. It's time. Yeah, so that, now as a grown-up, I know that the church split. The people in that congregation and what it was told to be at the time was that my father was embezzling money. I did not learn that information until I was an adult, okay? Within the last year of my life, because I have done so much work around this, because my journey extended much past that business meeting, that church split, and those things that have forever impacted my brain. What happened over the course of that summer? That happened at the end of my 7th grade school year. That church split happened. Over the summer, about 2 months later, I had a sibling, and I'm going, for the sake of protecting my siblings' names right now, I'm going to be very, very vague, because we all have very different stories here, and none of us have ever healed from the first time, but especially me, because I've never had the space to talk to my siblings about it, my mom, because we've all been in our own trauma. Okay, my dad is a nut job, and if you already kind of know it, this is your confirmation, this is validation for all of us. He is insane, and he needs a lot of help. 2 months after that happened, my mom left the state, and I was 14. So I was at that point, I was 14, but I acted more like I was 16, 17, maybe 20. I did not look 14, okay? That is part of the reason this journey for me was so grown up, because I passed for much older, and I thought we were going to leave him the first time. This all happened. That was what my mom said. But then we stayed, and I get it. I understand why, but this is a lot. after that church split happened, my dad's mental health really spiraled. At the time, we did not know about the physical issues that he struggled with. He did not know he was a diabetic. He did not know he had high blood pressure. And if you knew my dad those first 9 years, he ran like crazy. I hold a lot of, honestly, pain for my dad because he's been through so much trauma. But instead of choosing healing for himself, he just coped the best way he could. And he's got some really lousy excuses for that. And a lot of adults that should have held him accountable didn't. And that's how we've gotten to this point. But I really hope my dad gets the help he needs. And I think he's in a space where he's realizing desperately how much that is now. So I need to just say that I love my dad a lot. And after the shock of this all finally goes away, I'm going to be grieving that for a very long time. So his mental health really spiraled. We had lost everybody. We called friend. And I don't know what was true and what was not true at the time. I really didn't. I was a kid and was going through leaving all of these people on my own. But my mom had left the state to go pick up one of my siblings from my grandma Ruby, my dad's mom. And she lived in Alabama. So she was 10 to 12 hours away when this happened. But my dad spiraled one evening after he came home from work. And I was home alone with one of my other sisters and one of my friends from the church. And I'm going to leave that there for their privacy. And my dad attempted to unalive himself. And I found him. And the truth that came out that followed after was that there was an emotional affair. Up to this point is all that I've ever been able to confirm. But he was having an emotional affair with my piano teacher, the church pianist of that first church, and someone that he had known since second grade. There are other pastors in his circle that also went to school with him since second grade and also know this woman. My dad was very close with these people. And at this point, this woman and her family were the only family we still had contact with. I was still taking piano lessons at the time, but I had lost everyone else. Her sons were my brothers. And her husband at the time was very close with my mom in a healthy way. You know, we were all very close as a family. To this day, I still do not know the specifics of what happened between my father and that woman. But after becoming a grown-up and being able to hear more sides of people that were around, both of my dad and another woman in that time frame, I had reason to believe there was way more than it just being on my dad's side. But I have never been able to have confirmation. I've never been able to have closure. I've never been able to connect with another piano teacher because she's the only person that taught me one-on-one for 7 years. It's why when I moved churches, I started relying heavily on my ear because of the male pianist that was in my father's first church. He's a phenomenal musician, and I would sit and watch him for hours after services. So he is where my creative side on the piano came in. But this woman is where my music theory came in. It is why I cannot play at the level that I used to be able to. I have had to do hours and hours and hours of trauma work around the piano because this disgruntled me so much. But within 2 years of this happening, my dad had taken a second church. I'm only going to speak about the church journey at this current moment in time because there's a lot of different rabbit trails I could go off on here, and I'm not going to because they're different stories for different parts of my journey. As you can imagine, though, my mental health really, really struggled. I found him. It was not bloody, but it was enough that I knew what was going on. And then the messages came out that had to be said to my mother, who was 12 hours away, as to why. And the why was because this woman was breaking contact with my father. That was what pushed him to be this drastic. My mom came home. She and I please, I am only speaking about my mother because this is just my own experience, and please do not, if you know my mother, do not reach out to her right now with this. She is on her own healing journey right now. And she knows I'm on mine, but she does not need to be blindsided. Please, the only reason I'm saying my mother's name is because it's my mom. There's no way to not bring her into it. But please respect her privacy here and do not reach out to her and ask her about this stuff. My mom is healing from 33 years of abuse with this man right now. But the plan was for her and I was going to get a paper route and we were going to leave. And over the course of my time my dad being in the hospital, I had to go back and I went with him for support. I wanted nothing to do with him. I didn't want to see him because I was the only one that knew the truth of my siblings. The one sibling that was there was significantly younger and was put in a closet for the majority of what was going on once me and this other... Yes, Jen, my mom is incredibly strong. And she is going to survive this, but she needs a lot of space to heal right now. My mom is an incredibly strong, wonderful woman, and she is why I am, and why I have so much good. My dad has a lot of good in his heart, but he never got his head straight, ever. So, yes, my mom is incredibly strong, and came from a lot of abuse herself, came from a very hard life. My dad was her saving grace, she thought. He was not. Regardless, I end up visiting him a handful of times in these spaces that I have no desire to be, but was there because of the other grown-ups in my life asking me to be there. So I went. And no one ever knew the truth. In the year and a half that followed, my father did not pastor a church. I went from 14 to 16. I started my 8th grade year at the other local church school that I had been in for 3 years prior. All of my best friends were there. But because of what had happened over the summer, half of our congregation had ended up at that church. And I started the beginning of my 8th grade year in a meeting with another pastor. My principal, I can't... When I release stuff about the church and wanting to hold people accountable, it's more the pastors and all of the grown-ups in this life that actually knew the truth, and instead of protecting us children, protected my father. As a grown-up now, I understand how much of our congregation had absolutely no clue what was going on, and even some of the pastors. But because everyone was so tiptoey around mental health 15, 16 years ago, especially in the church world, I mean, they still are in that circle that I was raised in. A lot of them do not. It's getting better. But a lot of them don't believe in addressing their mental health. They believe in praying it away. They don't ever find the balance for themselves. And I don't say that in judgment, but I've had to walk that journey personally, okay? So I've realized this for myself, and I've had to do a lot of work, and I'm still doing a lot of work for myself here. But in the 18 months that followed, the year and a half that followed, we recovered at my father's home church, in Portage, and my sisters and I went on singing more, and I went through 3 different schools my 8th grade year. 3 different schools. I started the beginning of that school year walking in to just try and get away from home life and get to school, to you are not allowed. And at this point, I'm sharing classrooms with people that, like, friends from my church that I have not seen in 6 months, 5 months. And it was very traumatic, and none of us kids understood what was going on. That's part of the reason I'm saying this, because those kids are still people that I have on my Facebook. We're all this age and have our families now. But none of us were ever able to heal or talk about this. So while this is partially in my part about ministry, this is largely more so for my support. Because, oh, hi, Miss Stanley. It's so nice to see your name pop up. Tucker is phenomenal. This is one of Tucker's teachers. The kids are doing really, really well. Tucker's doing great. They're actually at a friend's house right now. They had a sleepover with friends last night. I need to just side note that for the people that are watching and are wondering about my children, thank you for bringing that up, Miss Stanley. And I know you're just asking because you're a former teacher. My kids are thriving right now. They're going through a lot this year. Their dad left the state 2 months ago. But I have a great relationship with my kids, and I have a lot of support that I didn't know I had. So my kids are doing really, really well through this. And they don't know the full truth of what is going on, but I've already had to have so many hard conversations with my kids about their biological father and their other set of grandparents. especially their other grandpa, that this coming up with this particular grandpa, we're finding ways to healthily talk about it. They don't know this. They don't know the nitty gritty. But Tucker's a real deep kid. He asks a lot of questions. So thank you for that, Miss Stanley. It was nice to see your name. Yeah, so none of us kids knew what was going on. And I started my 8th grade year being told that I couldn't talk about any of it. I just had to stay there and keep my mouth shut and focus on my school. I don't know what happened there, but needless to say, I was not there very long. And a few months later, I went to public school for the first time in my life. That was pretty rough. This was 8th grade. Okay, that was like exposure shock therapy on steroids. And 2 months later, I was moved again schools because my father became the janitor for the high school of the cult up in Indiana, First Baptist Church of Hammond. My dad really believed a lot of their beliefs already, and his church was one town over from their church. And so while he, the church looked Southern Baptist, the way my dad preached and the way my dad taught was very independent fundamental Baptist. Jack Hiles, Jack Scott, that was all he listened to. That was how he ran our house. We didn't wear pants. We didn't go to the movies. I had to mute the Disney songs on the Disney Channel. There was a lot of abuse at home, okay? A lot of abuse. My dad took spanking to a whole different kind of level. It was a lot. And this was way before, this is all before when he was going through his first church, okay? This was early childhood. And I don't remember a lot before 4th grade, honestly. My memory is pretty gone before 4th grade. So there are things that are coming back now, and it's not great. But it's also healing for me, so it is great, and a better mom. For like this, I started this healing journey because I had kids, and I realized I had cycles to break. I had no clue 12 years ago. Well, Taylor's 11, so I started this journey 11 years ago. I had no clue where this was going to lead me. I was still in the church at the time. So those 18 months we lay pretty low. My dad gets back on his feet. He doesn't. There was a lot of abuse going on at home. Actually, when I reference in that poem that I shared, being literally strangled, that happened in this time frame, in those 18 months. That happened when I was 15. A lot of trauma for me as the oldest. My dad has a lot of anger problems, and my mom also was going through a lot of her own abuse. So it wasn't that she didn't know how to protect us. We were all very much victims, but my mom especially. My mom and myself I was the oldest, and she was my mom, so we got a lot there. I remember watching my mom cover bruises and walk into Sunday services before his second church. And no one ever knew the truth. We didn't know how to talk about it, and my mom was not raised in the Baptist circle. She had no experience with this life. She became experienced with this life when she became a pastor's wife for the first time, so I hold a lot of compassion for my mom. Fast forwarding to now. Oh, no. 18 months later, my dad took the church where he was. He's no longer at. But 18 months after this happened, about 2 years later, maybe tops, he took the church where he's at now. And we were put back on platforms. My sisters and I went on to record the CD. The life evolved the way that you guys saw, okay? A lot of people saw me struggling in different ways, and after talking to the grown-ups now, I was painted to be crazy. My dad did not know why I was struggling and was just so desperate for help for me, while never admitting what he was doing at all to me or in the home. Never admitting the truth of what had happened in the first church. And as a grown-up now, and having gone through the journey I've gone through the last week, the church that he walked into had no clue about my father's past. They had no clue. That church, they are good people. My heart is breaking for that congregation right now, because we all really thought that my dad had healed. Like the people that knew the truth thought my dad had healed. And this church group did not know the truth about my father. And I know that now. And I didn't hold ill will towards them. I didn't know who knew what. But I've been able to get closure for myself now over the course of the last 7 days. Fast forward to 16 years later. Here we are now. I left the church 5 years ago amidst COVID. At that point, I had already left my father's church, and it was only because I moved an hour away. But when the churches shut down, my PTSD broke loose. And the things that I went through all of those years ago were things that I could no longer not face anymore. My kids were re-triggering me, and I couldn't. And I had a psychological break in 2020, days before COVID got announced. My father could not handle the guilt of his past, and literally told me if you cannot stop talking about this, put this aside. I cannot have a relationship with you. And I went no contact with my parents. Well, my father was where it started, but because no one in my family understood why I couldn't just forgive and forget and move on. Everyone else had moved on. We were all happy. He wasn't hating us anymore. In my teen years, guys, by the time I was at that church, I attempted myself, and he talked the psych hospital out of keeping me because he was the local doctor. So after I left ICU, I came back home instead of staying. And a year later, I ran away. CPS got involved, and I told them what was going on. Jesse, I have done EMDR, but around this specific memory, I've not been able to get to that point because the last decade of my life has been its own kind of trauma. I had 4 kids in less than 3 years because no one taught me how my body worked. And then that was its own survival. By the time I realized what I needed help with, this one particular thing has been so far on the back burner that, ironically enough, Friday morning, this like a week ago, I was supposed to do an EMDR session around this particular thing. And the only reason we didn't was because I was 10 minutes late for therapy. God knew what was going to happen for last Friday night. None of the rest of us did. But yes, I've tried, but my life has not allowed for me to get to the point to be able to process this because there's been so much other survival amidst having my kids and then COVID and then having to leave my ex-husband because he lost his ever-loving mind and would not go get help. And then getting back together with him because I thought he was going to, moving 13 hours away, and now I've started my life over for the second time. I am in a space of therapy. And this is something, I have a great trauma therapist now. This was actually just starting to resurface, but God has apparently decided to blow open the doors a second time. Because last Wednesday, 10 days ago my father called us and said that he was going to retire. It was very calm. It was very peaceful. It was the healthiest conversation the 6 of us as a family unit have ever had. Okay? He was talking about his bipolar and getting on medications. He was talking about getting himself help, and that he was stepping through this, like he was stepping down because God had stopped speaking to him and he didn't want it. He said the first time God kept talking to me and I just kept going and it became a mess. And none of us fully understood what that meant, but this all seemed healthy. We did not know the truth of what my father has been doing the last 2 years, at least. And more has come forward outside of just the last 2 years. And this is part of the reason I'm sharing the truth. Because I'm sickened and my heart is hurting for a lot of other women that I have been around my entire life because I was a teenager and had a lot of friends around. And no one knew the truth, and my father was a very abusive person, and anybody that was in our house for any amount of time knew that, but they were all too afraid of him to say anything, including some of his pastor friends. This is why accountability is such a big deal to me. I am angry, but I've processed through my anger. I am 30 years old now and I want to help other people. And so this is why I share my story, but also sharing my story is all of the times that I've had to lie and silence myself or get on a platform myself with covered bruises and sing for Jesus and about the love that he has while no one has any clue what is going on. I never thought I was going to share this part of my life. But I've just brought you guys to present day, and what I'm about to share with you is why I am now being led to share this. Otherwise, I probably never would have shared this stuff. So, my father seemed to be healthily resigning from this second church because of his physical health, the stress of his body, and God wasn't speaking to him anymore. It seemed to be very peaceful within the church. There was no ill will towards him. Everybody understood, and there was going to be a transition. Yes, Amber, he had everybody fooled. He had everybody fooled really, really, really well, and he was really good at it. He was very charismatic. Everybody loved my dad. But since the truth of this has started to come out more and more, I have had no less than 5 or 6 people say, your father has always disgusted me. We just took space. We just left. This is really hard for me to talk about. I appreciate the people that have dropped comments and helped me ground in different ways. Because I am healthy. I'm handling this as healthily as I can right now. But it's so strange to walk through this a second time. But instead of walking through it with no awareness and no ability to be an adult or speak for myself, I'm a grown-up this time. And it's hard being present with myself through this, and it is making my body relive a lot, but it's giving me the chance to heal. It is giving me a relationship with my mom and my siblings that I probably never would have had if we had not been given this opportunity to heal because of the narcissism and the abuse my dad has continued. He just got better at hiding it. Between the span of Monday of last Wednesday, when my father gave his formal resignation to the elders of the church, the people he needed to speak to, and Friday night when he had a meeting scheduled to talk about the business side of things, it came out that my father had been having sexual relations with one of my old best friends, the female that replaced me on the piano when I moved to Elkhart. I am leaving her name out of this because in this moment, since more has come to light, in some ways she was a victim because my father is a predator. But I also know the truth of her, and she is not being fully honest, and she's trying to save her marriage at this moment. I'm going to leave it there because this is not my journey with her. I haven't been friends with her for a hot minute, and I couldn't figure out why she blocked me and just walked out of my life. I know now why. But instead of my father going into this meeting to have a peaceful conversation about what's going to happen with the business of the church, he is blindsided with this information. My mentally ill, mentally unstable father, who has gotten very, very good at hiding it. I also need to say my children are nowhere near around me, and they have never heard this. They have not heard this all week. This man right here has been phenomenal and has protected my kids and given me the space to be able to get through this the way I'm needed. And by the end of this week, I had other friends stepping in to help. My kids do not know this truth. They have seen mom not upset, but they haven't seen me distraught, and my kids are okay. And my siblings and I are navigating this as well as we can. We were all out of the state at this point. But my mother obviously had no clue. She's done a lot of work in her marriage. They've built themselves a home. Our family as a unit has done a lot of healing, we thought, over the last 3 years since I've come back to being with them. And at this point, this particular woman is my age, and she kind of like became the replacement daughter the same year that all of us kids moved away, okay? So the year that I moved an hour from my dad's church a few years ago, back in 2017, 2018. Let's see, I had Levi in 2017, so I think I moved away probably 2018, 2019. I moved from LaPorte, where my dad's church was, to Elkhart. I didn't leave church. I just moved. And so that is why this woman replaced me. At that point, though, I met her while I was pregnant with my youngest son, and she was pregnant with her second son. I invited her to the church. She and I were very, very good friends before she ever became the replacement daughter, because that all took place in the last 4 years after I moved away. And it was like, whatever. She even knew how unhealthy it was. She'd left the church at one point a couple years ago, and I was still friends with her at the time. I'd already moved down here, but she told me how unhealthy the relationship was with my father and how he treated us just like he treated us girls. But then she went back, and I couldn't figure out why. She knew she needed to go to trauma therapy. We had talked about her stuff. But I also could understand psychologically how she was enjoying the attention from my dad. I didn't realize the extent of that attention, obviously. And it makes my stomach turn to think about. But there's a lot of confusions currently sitting in that congregation because she left the church again 2 months ago. And I believe the only reason this information came to light is because she was panicking when she heard that my father was resigning, and she's trying to save what's going on in her end. Now that is its own story, because since that has come to light, as of a couple days ago, another young woman has come forward with the reason that she just disappeared from my father's church. And while nothing happened with her specifically, she left before anything could because she felt my father was being that inappropriate with her. And I'm being very vague one, to protect this woman, but because the only reason she said anything was because she felt comfortable saying something knowing that he is no longer a pastor. This happened with her years ago, okay? But after speaking with my mother and how my mother has addressed this particular woman that came forward, the first one, not the second allegation, but the first one, my mother has for years been asking my dad about this woman, my age. And my dad has been gaslighting her and telling her she was trying to split the church and telling her she was trying to cause drama. Last year, one of my cousins left my father's church because he felt and saw the same things, and my father was denying it, and everyone stood by my dad. The allegations there were true. At this point, I don't know the extent of how far it went, but that was not forced. That particular incident was not forced by my father. It was definitely coerced, and that woman has a lot of trauma. But at this point, another person's come forward, and she only came forward because she felt safe enough saying something knowing he's not a pastor anymore. And it's making me realize some things about my teen years and my childhood and how my father has always been around other women, young women specifically. At this point, I do not know the extent of this, and I am not fishing for it, but also I feel the truth needs to come out in case there are other women he has made feel like this. None of them were underage, but both of them were in their 20s. One of them was my age, 20, like 29, 30, and the one that was reciprocated. But the one that finally came forward, she was engaged in her early 20s, guys. Significantly younger than my father. And since the truth of this has come out more, and I have been speaking with more people that have known my father a long time and have taken space for their various reasons, I have learned how uncomfortable my father has made them, and I do not know the extent of the truth of this. Yes, Jesse, you knew my dad. You were a teenager at Highland. This is part of the reason that I'm so icked out right now, because I know how my father has talked to teenage girls, myself included, the girls my friends. But now I don't know the extent of what all has gone on. Because I have built such a relationship with my father as I have over the last 3 years, he had helped me buy the vehicle that I currently have. Because I trusted him. And while it was all above the table, my father has put this church 6 figures in debt because of his own personal spending habits a second time. And that's come to light because I've been in contact with the church elders there. They know that my heart is with them, and at this point I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose my vehicle. There's no way I can pay out the rest of the loan that's on it to get it out of the church's name. And I could afford the monthly payments. There was only 3 years left of payments, and I trusted my dad. He's been refinancing things, I'm sure. My dad's not great with money. If you know my dad, I've said for years, my dad could make money appear like Jesus walked on water, and I never understood. And maybe, honestly, there was truth to it, and he was stealing money at this point. I have no idea. I don't know the extent of this. Because I never had closure around the truth of what happened the first time, I was able to kind of just put it in a box and just leave it at, my dad had an emotional affair with my piano teacher. Now, not only was it one of my old best friends, it was the person that replaced me on the piano. I don't know that I'm ever gonna... Actually, if you're one of my... I'm realizing this now that I'm saying this. I have 2 students that I haven't been able to contact with their moms that might be seeing this. And I just haven't had time to call you guys this week. I don't know what's gonna happen with teaching because of what's happened to me over the summer and my health. I wasn't at a space to rebuild, but I don't know that I can even look at a piano right now. So, on the music mom end, I don't know what's going to happen. It's taken me a lot of healing to get to the point where I could teach people. But because of my journey professionally over this last 6 months, I'm not in a space to be able to rebuild right now. And I am just trusting the universe to continue to come in and justice there, because I was really wronged as a trauma survivor, as a cult survivor. And the truth of that situation is still being twisted, but I've kept my mouth shut because I'm used to staying quiet. And I'm going to stop that there because it's a story for a different day. Can you grab me some tissue, baby? But it was time for me to be honest about my father and the pastor he has been. Because he never should have been in a pulpit the first time. And since I've been talking to older family members about this that have known my dad a long time, much longer than me, they reminded me of other allegations that had come forward with other women in this time frame, both at this second church and the first church. Oh, I'm shaking. My hands are frozen. My feet are on fire. I have pins and needles everywhere. Whew.
I love you.
I love you too, baby. I think this is at a space where I've given the gist of what's going on. And I definitely need to ground myself, because this has taken me a lot to be honest and share, even though I knew that this was part of my healing journey. If you are actively one of the 20 people that are watching this, I have no clue who's watching this. I don't. I see comments dropping, and I appreciate it so much. I am going to be okay. My mom has already left the state. She has already separated all of her finances. She is leaving my father, and she is finally going to be happy for herself. And I ask, please, if you know my family and you have questions that you ask me, do not go to my mother. Please respect her privacy and let her have space to heal here. My father is still seeking psychiatric help. Because once he was blindsided, I didn't get to this part. Once he was blindsided with this information, he left the church and attempted to unalive himself for the second time in a much, much more dramatic way than the first time. And my dad is laying in a hospital right now. Actually, because of the injuries he's given, the last update I was given as of last night is he's actually having a possibility of surgery because of the infections. And I, at that point, told the sibling that gave me the information that I love them. But at this point, I don't want to know what's going on with him. I hope he gets the help that he needs. And it sounds like he is low enough and in his place where he is really going to. But I will personally never have a relationship with my father again. And that is not just because I am angry. I am being left with questions in my head that I do not know how to answer. I am the only female that has consistently sat on his piano bench for any extended amount of time that he has not done something sexual with. And I don't remember a lot of my childhood. So I am left and sitting in a lot of ick right now because I just don't know what's going on. And I'm trying not to exaggerate things, but also the truth of my father is coming out more and more, and it needs to be addressed. So part of me is saying this because if you know someone that knows me from my upbringing, if you were a girl that I was teenage friends with, please know I am a safe space, and I want you to tell me, because now it's not just for me. I'm going to be probably going back to Indiana in the next couple months to drive my vehicle back because I lost my car now. The church is, they're breaking, but they're breaking for me too because they never knew the truth about me either. And there's a lot of opportunity for healing here for a lot of people with me sharing the truth. But at this point, the only people that really know the truth of everything are my mom, me, and one other individual. But that one other individual, it's not her job to do this. And my mom's not in the space too. But I got on here 3 months ago and told you guys how I really felt like my heart was called to ministry, and I'm realizing this, but because of who my father is, I just couldn't accept this. And I don't know what that looks like for me because I don't believe it the same way I was taught it. But this is ministry for me because my heart is breaking for the hundreds of people, the hundreds of girls that have been exposed to my father either in my home or in one-on-one counseling. If you reach out to me and I do not respond right away, obviously you see I'm working through this as healthily as I can. My siblings are not aware of the information that has come to light. None of my siblings are. My mom either. I'm the only one, and it is because I'm seeking the truth in this. And it's not that my family is not seeking the truth. We're just going through a lot of trauma right now. And we're all on our own journeys. And my siblings are trying to figure out how to navigate with their father or not. But I have chosen to not. You're welcome to ask me questions about him. I will tell you what I know. I'm at a place where I'm no longer getting even health updates from him unless my family decides that I need to have the information. I don't want to have it. Sorry, the shadow of the sun's coming up. It's driving me nuts. So if you hear what is going on with him, please respectfully don't give it to me. I don't want to hear it. I am happy to point you in the direction of people that may be able to let you know what's going on with him if you want to know about his well-being. But at this current moment in time, if you are someone that ever sat in his congregation, I hope you understand that he does not need your pity right now. I hope you are able to find healing for yourself, because I can only imagine the amount of confusion he has left hundreds of adults in and hundreds of couples that he's counseled. And he's been lying through his teeth the whole time, guys. I've done my healing around the Bible. Mine is still sitting right here, okay? You guys have been able to watch that journey with me, but no one understood why I lost my mind. And it's because no one's known the truth. And so many people were still watching me leave my ex-husband, calling me crazy, just distancing themselves because I looked like the prodigal child. I'm not. But instead of me just getting to go back and, do EMDR and replay the memories that way, God's given me an opportunity to not only heal from this and new things on a deeper level. Maybe this is going to help me heal from things that I've struggled to heal from for the decade that I've been in trauma therapy, and I never understood why I couldn't heal. It's because I didn't have closure. I didn't know what was going on. And I thought it was all in my head at that point because no one for 16 years has talked about it. No one's acknowledged it. And it's just lived in my head. So, yeah, I need to probably stop this for now and go regulate myself a bit. I'm picking my kids up later today, and I'm finally going to see one of my sisters here. I'm not going to talk more about that right now because they're all on their own journeys. But please, please, please keep my mom and my siblings and I in your prayers. We are going to be okay. Thankfully, all 5 of us have the supports we need now to be able to navigate this in a healthy way. But if you are someone from the church, if you are someone that at some point in time called my father your friend, I am asking you to soul search, hold yourself accountable. If you're in the vicinity of Northwest Indiana, maybe check on your people. Go love somebody, guys. There is so much insanity going on in the world right now. Jesus didn't talk about all of the junk. He met people where they were. Right now, this is where I am. And this is where my Jesus continues to meet me. And it's why I will continue to share the way that I share. Go love somebody today, regardless of the politics. Just go be kind.
And know that somebody has her. I promise you, all you guys that are worrying and loving.
He's got me.
And I've got the kids.
And there's community down here that is helping us because I've done so much work to get it. Getting to rewalk this a second time, but with actual healthy support, is healing for my heart in a way I didn't know I needed. And because of this, more supports in other areas of my life, including professionally and the things that I struggled through over the summer, more supports have happened to come there because the universe works in insanely crazy ways. Go love somebody today. Feel free to reach out. I will absolutely respond as I can. It may be a minute. We don't have the kids for a minute, so we're kind of just trying to sit and enjoy that space and recover because this has been a week. I got this information last Saturday morning while I was in the art room at my church space. So I am grateful for the way that God is leading Jerry, universe, whoever the heck you believe in, that's up there. Know that there is something bigger, and there is something bigger at play. Even if we don't get it. But for me, my story is too my story is too big to not be a part of making a change. And being a part of the change. That is healing for me. So, yeah. Feel free to talk to whoever you need to talk to. Obviously, please be respectful of my dad's current church. No, I don't think I have any of his current members that are actively seeing this right now because that church is currently navigating a lot. But I've asked for an opportunity for healing for both me and that current congregation when I take the vehicle back. And I'm just waiting to see where the conversation goes with the people that I've needed to, as God opens doors. But please be respectful of the privacy of not just my family, but also the members of that congregation. A lot of them may not know what's going on. I have no idea. I'm 13 hours away. But this is part of the reason I'm sharing the truth. If you have someone that you love in that congregation, please check on them. I'm not in contact. I don't know half of those people anymore. The church itself was doing really, really well. And I hope and pray that they are able to handle this and recover from this in honesty and truth. Because I watched the first church fall apart because no one knew the truth of anything. And 6 months later, that church didn't exist. So please, I know it's so easy to go church gossip. Please check your heart. But also, if you know someone that you love that may be attached to this, just tell them you love them. Check on if you feel that there's space to do it. And don't do it for more information. Don't cause more hurt. Do it from a place of love. And go love somebody like Jesus would. Okay? Go be the Jesus we need. I'm done now. For real. I love you guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being supportive. If you're in the Greenville area, I could really use some friends. I don't have a lot of friends. I have people that I have acquaintances on here. So if you want to get coffee or something, my kids are still in school. And I've got space for that. And I could use friends my age especially. So, yeah. I love you guys. And hopefully I will be in a space to share more soon. Whatever that looks like. Maybe not this. Poetry, whatever. I'm still healing and I'm going to keep healing. Just don't know what that's going to look like yet. So, thanks for coming along for the ride. And if you commented, I'm going to go back through later. Much love to you guys. Thank you for the support. Thank you for helping me ground through giving this story. Oh. All right. Bye.